for many years, I've made fun of Dave Rubin, and at the same time, been kind of upset with Dave Rubin for how he grifted and basically shits on the left and act like he's the only liberal that's sensible, and that all the right wing people that he interviews on the Rubin Report are all correct, and that there's no such a thing as a quote unquote good progressive in his eyes, and that's how he paints it, and he's a professional smear merchant. And I resent him a great deal because of that grift that he's done since I'm going to say since 2016. I do think that when he parted ways with the Young Turks in 2015, that was not intentionally, that was not initially a grift, but it worked its way into a grift later on. I do remember the days he was a Bernie Sanders supporter, believe it or not. But you see, the thing about it is that Dave Rubin does not control or what does not he does not have experience in foreign policy to basically contribute to the damage on the world scene the way Tulsi Gabbard turned out to be earlier this week. Well, Mark Preisner and Jeb Sprague went around disrupting George W. Bush, and they were pretty damn awesome for doing that. Tulsi Gabbard decides, well, of instead of being Abby Martin, she'll try being Liz Cheney, and that's what basically happened. I mean, in 2012, when she got elected to Congress, and I barely remember the name Tulsi Gabbard around 2012. I do remember a headline of she getting elected and everything, and people talking about, oh my, she's going to be the heir apparent to Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, or both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. She's the future of the Democratic Party. And she was, she had a high profile. She was pretty much a standard Democrat from that second congressional district in Hawaii. And nothing particularly eventful. I wouldn't call her a corporate Democrat. I wouldn't call her a progressive. I would have referred to her as a standard Democrat at that time. And then around 2016, when Bernie Sanders entered the Democratic primaries to challenge Hillary Clinton, and there was potential for Bernie Sanders to get the nomination because nobody saw that coming. She saw opportunity in Bernie Sanders. This was the first grift, in my opinion. But I mean, even though she did it for grifting reasons, looking back in hindsight, I was still glad that she exposed to the country what the DNC were doing in trying to cheat Bernie Sanders out of the nomination, because the DNC were rigging against Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton campaign were rigging against Bernie Sanders. There were some structural infrastructure. There was some structural layouts in the Democratic Party apparatus that naturally favor Hillary Clinton, such as superdelegates. And in that regard, she was not necessarily, cheating, but she certainly took advantage of that as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that she saw a future. Tulsi Gabbard saw a future in Bernie Sanders, and she figures she'll go and expose what Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment were doing. She'll hitch on to the Sanders bandwagon, and maybe she could be, the VP. Or if Bernie Sanders wins the election, Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State or something high profile. Basically a stepping stone to something higher for later on. And she saw a future with Bernie Sanders. Well, it from 2017 to 2019, and that's after the 2016 election. I kept on hearing Tulsi Gabbard's name being thrown around as an heir apparent to Bernie Sanders down the road, and it was actually pretty interesting to hear this because and I as I said, I was starting to read up on Tulsi Gabbard. And I was like, yeah, she seems promising, and I like her. I like her presence, and I like her style. I like her mojo, if you will, in the way that she challenged the establishment Democrats. And so it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, she could be the future. But right now, got to worry about 2020. Bernie's got to run again, and this time he's got to get the nomination. Well, when Tulsi Gabbard announced her candidacy, I think it was like about a week and a half or 2 weeks before Bernie Sanders announced his in early 2019. The thing about it is, and Kyle Kalinske actually made a reference to the fact that not only was she back then considered a good candidate running on substance such as foreign policy and it seems like on domestic issues as well, that he knew that she wouldn't get the nomination. And I think that's something that everybody knew at the time, those who knew who Tulsi Gabbard was. But she would be kind of an unofficial ally of Bernie Sanders in the primaries, sort of an attack dog, if you will. And that seemed to be what was going on in the primaries very early on. And the thing about it is that I mean, she destroyed Kamala Harris right away. In spite of my anger with Tulsi Gabbard now, she destroyed Kamala Harris, and I will always consider that moment the most beautiful part of the 2020 Democratic primaries. Well, think about it. The thing about it is that Tulsi Gabbard, um, there was a media attack, the Hillary Clinton attack, and because of the psychology of Trump winning, people blaming Bernie for the election loss for Hillary Clinton, that some of the progressives who are otherwise good people decided to hitch on this Russia gate bullshit that Hillary Clinton and many corporate Democrats hitched on, and so Hillary Clinton referring to her as a Russian asset because Hillary Clinton also basically asserted that Bernie Sanders is a Russian asset and that Jill Stein is a Russian asset. So a bunch of team player progressives, they decided to go and side with Hillary over Tulsi Gabbard. And the thing about it is, it's still almost 2 years after the fact. And while I don't have any use for Tulsi Gabbard right now, is she less bad or less awful than Hillary Clinton? Between the two, she's still more tolerable. However, her foreign policy, as of this week, looks like it's no different from Hillary Clinton. So, but you had the media attacking Tulsi Gabbard and excluding her from the debates and all of that. And I think that basically the bad and shitty treatment by the Democratic establishment and half of the progressive movement within the Democratic Party, I think that the psychology of that made her grift in a worse direction as a result. And I was really pissed when she chose or endorsed Biden over Bernie Sanders. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, why did she do this? And then little by little, she started to grift and started to do weird things. Like like for example, before her term was expired, or to before she left Congress, she co-sponsored legislation, anti-trans legislation to basically discriminate against transgender women in sports. And, what a way to end her career in Congress. She could have ended her career by collaborating or working on Force the Vote. Of course, nobody was interested in forcing the vote in her. I know she was going to leave Congress, but she could have got the ball rolling on Force the Vote and all of that, because I at that time I was still saying, oh well, she's an unofficial member of the squad, what have you. But that is an insult to the squad, and the squad kind of deserves insulting at the moment, ironically enough. Then she started sucking up to the right, and I think she started sucking up to the right because, for some reason, some people on the right actually liked her over all the other Democrats. And I used to argue that when she was winning over right wing support, she was doing it on her terms, not theirs. And I still like to think that, but she realizes that maybe there is potential on a right wing base. So she basically fucked over the core of her left wing supporters. And when in the core of her left wing supporters were the Bernie Sanders 2016 supporters. They were people like you had maybe some paleo conservatives who had an independent streak to them, and some libertarian leaning people. She had kind of an unusual coalition of supporters. Well, she decided to little by little to start sucking up to the right, and well, I'm going to go and play this video here, and I will comment momentarily. Hold tight. All right. Okay. This is a couple of minutes long, but it's very very relevant because she was on Tucker Carlson the other night, and this is where I basically said I wash my hands of anything to do with Tulsi Gabbard. Here we go.
We thought it'd be interesting to see what Tulsi Gabbard thinks about this. She's a former member of Congress from Hawaii. She served in Iraq as a member of the Hawaii Army National Guard. She's still serving the country in the military. She joins us tonight. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming on. So you get to lie. I mean, this will not shock you because you've seen it so much, but you get to lie about the loss of human life. You get caught and nothing happens to you? What kind of system is that?
I mean, this kind of accountability is critical. I want to point out first that anytime there are civilian casualties in war, it is tragic and terrible. Yeah. War is a terrible thing, and I think it's important for the American people to understand that Islamist jihadists are continuing to wage war against us. And the Islamist ideology, not the same as the religion of Islam, but this Islamist ideology, which is a political ideology that inspired the terrorist attacks on our country on 9/11, is the greatest threat that we're facing right now in this country and the world. It is the foundation of governance of so-called Islamic countries like Turkey and Iran and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. And it's what's behind the discriminatory policies that they have in these countries against Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, and others. So as long as these Islamist jihadists are waging war against us, we have to work to defeat them militarily and ideologically. And militarily, we have two choices in how we do that. Number one, we can continue to invade and occupy and nation-building countries around the world, just as we did in Afghanistan, at great cost. Number two, we can take a targeted approach using airstrikes, using our special forces to go in and go after these terrorist cells. The reality is that the cost to the American people, the cost to our troops, the cost to civilians will be far less if we take this very targeted approach to go after these jihadist terrorist cells than if we continue making the very same mistakes that we saw in Afghanistan and other parts of the world of invasion, occupation, and nation building.
So in order to do that, or to affect any successful military strategy, you have to have competent people running things. And doesn't competence require honesty and accountability? And that's what I see missing here. It's like you're not allowed to lie to the public, which employs you, are you?
The American people deserve honesty. They deserve leaders who lead with integrity and not those who shy away from their own responsibilities to the American people or look for a lower ranking fall guy to take the hit. The American people deserve strong leadership that looks out for their best interests and the best interests of our country.
When was the last time a general officer or someone, Pentagon level commander in the U.S. military was punished for a mistake, or is it's always the corporals, lieutenants, the captains?
That's a really good question, Tucker, and I can tell you from having just come off of active duty, having just come back from a deployment to Africa, there's a common frustration amongst service members when it is someone of a lower rank who takes the hit for decisions and policies that were made far above their level.
So dishonorable. That whole way of governing anything, not just the military.
It's not leadership. No, it's not leadership at all.
Cowardice. Tulsi Gabbard, welcome back. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News
No,
YouTube page
no,
and catch our hottest interviews and most
Shut up,
compelling
Sean.
analysis.
Shut up.
You will not get
Shut
it
up, Sean
anywhere
Hannity.
else.
Shut up, Sean Hannity. Okay. As you look at Tucker Carlson's expression, that blank look, he's like dumber looking than usual, but I almost have to express empathy because it was kind of like, what the fuck? Because he invited her up there because, at least on the foreign policy issue, that's the only area where I would say that he comes anything close to being correct on policy issues. He seems to be a non-interventionist, and that's the only good thing I'm going to say about him. He's horrible and everything else. But the thing about it is that he was befuddled, and that blank stare cracked me up when I saw it the first time. But the thing about it is the term Islamic jihadist. That's a talking point going back to Bush, Cheney. It's like it's 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. I felt like I was transported back 16, 17, 18, 19 years ago. That's just how it felt, because she should know better than that, because she basically, like, for example, Tim Ryan, who was running for president last year, actually 2 years ago at this point, talking about Al-Qaeda and Taliban and associating one with the other, and she pretty much explained that there was a difference between Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. She explained throughout the campaign on her Middle East policies why she went to visit Bashir al-Assad, and the fact that she wasn't praising the Assad regime, but she acknowledged that there are worse people out there, and those are the ones trying to topple Assad, and that's objectively true. And then there's this situation of the arms selling, the selling of arms to Saudi Arabia, which indirectly gives military equipment and money and assistance to Al-Qaeda. And this is the United States indirectly doing this. And they're indirectly contributing to a genocide in Yemen. She was talking about issues on foreign policy that not even Bernie Sanders was addressing. And the thing about it is, she was calling for the pardoning of Julian Assange and Ed Snowden, and and the national security state that infringes on our civil liberties, our right to privacy, our speech rights are being undermined because of the national security apparatus in this country and the military-industrial complex, who are making a lot of money off of manufacturing crisis in the Middle East. And she was addressing that in ways that Bernie Sanders would not dare to do so. And the thing about it is that I was just like, oh, this lady's got some substance. She's a badass. I was thinking that at the time, but then I mean, the rug got snatched from under me this past Monday. I mean, because she's made these talking points based on ignorance. And she should know better than that. She knows better than that. But she's got a Fox audience that she needs to go and get themselves worked up. And there's a rumor that she's trying to get a job on Fox. And I was like, oh, no, that can't be. That can't be. Fox can have her. Whatever. You know, if she's going to go and make comments like Islamism is our greatest threat or what have you, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Because thing about it is, there's no unified movement in the Middle East. I mean, you have Saudi Arabia, which is a Sunni theocracy. You have Iran, which is a Shia theocracy. They have no use for each other. Saudi Arabia is, that's the country that's really, really contributing to terrorism against the West. But the United States is focused on bullying Iran, and Iran commits very little terrorism, if any, against the West, especially when you compare it to Saudi Arabia. Yet the United States and other countries in the West wants to go and beat up on Iran, and it's ridiculous how we Americans just sit there and fall for these narratives. Not every American, but the thing about it is that there's no caliphate. There's, you got Hamas and Hezbollah. They have different ideologies. You got the Muslim Brotherhood, and you got, what's left of the Baptist movement in places like Syria, or the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. I mean, we're talking about competing ideologies. And the pan-Arab nationalism that used to exist several decades ago, which was populist left in a very Middle Eastern geographical sense, very secular. They did not discriminate against those Christians that she talks about and everything, because there were Christians within the, groups like the PLO, for example, along with Muslims, along with atheists, along with communists, and whatever kind of revolutionaries around. And the United States have done what they could to undermine and have a divide and conquer strategy that secularism was replaced with fundamentalism, and the fundamentalism that exists today is of the United States making. But the thing what alarmed me was also her talking about drone attacks as an alternative to boots on the ground. No, I mean no. Drones, it still kills a lot of innocent people. I mean, and one innocent person that's dying in these conflicts is still one innocent person too many. And now the only thing that may come the closest to agreeing with her on is to fight smarter, not harder. But I don't think she wants to fight smarter, and that is non-interventionism. That is to stay out of their business. And if we did that, I don't think that there will be jihadism. And I do not think there will be terrorism against the West. But as long as the United States just inserts itself in there and get themselves in the middle of the conflict every chance they can get, I mean, what else would the United States expect? I mean, blowback. And I know some people, some of the neocons and some right-wingers would be like, oh, he's part of the Blame America First crowd. Well, history has shown what's happened. 9/11 happened because Reagan backed the right-wing rebels in Afghanistan in the 80s against the Soviets. I would have rather have had Afghanistan remain under Soviet influence than to have the fundamentalists take over Afghanistan. But, other people don't see it that way. And the United States, honestly, United States needs to stop interfering in the affairs of the Middle East. We need to stay out of there. We need to stay out of all these conflicts around the world. I mean, even when the United States halfway means well, they end up still having blowback being experienced against them. And I think that the only way we're going to do to solve this is to just get the hell out of that region and mind our own damn business and stop bullying other countries around the world. That's what it's going to take. Otherwise, we're going to still see the same old shit, the same old shit. And how sad is it that Tulsi Gabbard, as I said before, it's like she was almost like a mainstream Abby Martin. All of a sudden, she turned into Liz Cheney. That's a worse grift than Dave Rubin. At least when Dave Rubin grift, it was entertaining because he's stupid. But Tulsi Gabbard is not stupid. And she's calculating, and she's and pretty soon she'll probably end up on the fucking 700 Club or something like that, and with her foreign policy after she become born again or something. So anyway, I'm just upset, and I'm sure other people on the left that supported her feel the same way. As I said, she was my second choice in 2019, 2020. But I am embarrassed that I've even thought about that, or thought about her in that sort of way. In fact, she just basically slapped the left in the face. The left wing was her core base. And she pretty much just told, the Jimmy Dores of the world, the Kim Iversons of the world, the Nico Houses of the world, the Combo Couches of the world. She basically told a lot of people on the left. She told Dennis Kucinich. She told all these people on the left. She told them basically to fuck off. And so, I can't help but feeling a lot of resentment against Tulsi Gabbard. As I said, Dave Rubin is stupid, and so he's unintentionally funny. So fine, but this woman is not stupid. She's a deeply intelligent woman, and she knows what she's been doing. And the fact that she went and grifted in a direction that is quite alarming, I mean, I wish she could go around at George W. Bush events and yell at George W. Bush and tell him what a war criminal he is, but it sounds like she's probably in agreement with him, So, very, very pissed about this. But anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you didn't like it, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Feel free also to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you're kept up to date by hard-hitting commentary by yours truly. I am American Social Democracy, peace and class struggle, and beware of the drifters out there.